what really happened as far as the Sargodha strikes are concerned. Why did they rattle Pakistan so much? In fact, top sources are now revealing to Times Now that there was a missile strike close to the Kirana Hills, and the strike was near a nuclear storage site entry, a tunnel leading to a nuclear facility that was struck. There was no intention of targeting this particular nuclear facility. It was only the Air Force base in Sargodha that was to be struck. And in fact, as we all know, the Sargodha base is in close proximity to the Kirana Hills. The Pakistan Air Force's Mushaf Air Base in Sargodha was attacked on May 8th. The Indian missiles struck and inflicted heavy damage in Sargodha. One strike was agonizingly close to the entrance of the nuclear storage site, is what we are told, and this is a tunnel leading to a nuclear storage site that was struck by a missile. The facility was not an intended target of the strike, is what government sources are telling us. What do you make of this? Joining us also on the panel is Major Manik M. Jolly. With us is Dr. Anantakrishnan M., independent defense journalist. But Air Marshal VPS Rana, what do you make of this information coming in that it was not the intended target? It was indeed the Sargodha Air Base that was struck, but it was an unintended consequence because there was a facility nearby.
Absolutely. I think it was made very, very clear in DG Air Operations briefing that what are the kind of intended targets. And it has also been confirmed from the satellite imagery, the kind of targeting that has been done is a typical classical Air Force targeting. You know, like you choose your DMPIs, direct mean points of impact, which can create, particularly on the runways, which will make the runway unusable for some time, and then you repeat your strikes, and likewise. Similarly, the command and control centers of both strikes that seem to have rattled Pakistan, in my opinion, more was on Noor Khan, which has very, very close proximity to Rawalpindi and Islamabad and Quetta. And Sargodha has been their main base. It is like hitting Sargodha is hitting their pride. So that is what is more. Besides housing the mobile missile storage sites or units, it houses all these, not only Sargodha, but Sargodha and Noor Khan in particular. Sargodha houses the F-16, which can carry the nuclear-capable missiles. Sargodha is their head, where their combat commanders school is there, where the top-notch fighter pilots and air defense controllers are trained. So it is like hitting their pride, and it is very heavily defended. Obviously, it has nuclear assets. It has the nuclear command, other facilities. So is Noor Khan. So while there was no intended attack directly on any of the nuclear facilities, at least that's what Air Force tells us, and that's what satellite imagery also confirms. The messaging was very clear that all these strikes were so close that few kilometers left and right, you would have destroyed their entire nuclear command structure.
Right.
So one point I want to make it here.
Yeah.
All strikes that have been there are so precise.
Absolutely.
Is in terms of meters, so there is no question of unintended attack anywhere.
Yeah, let me take that question across. Let me take that question across to Dr. Anantakrishnan M. Dr. Anantakrishnan M, it has been very, very clear in terms of and precise in terms of what we wanted to target and what really we have struck. And if you just contrast that with what Pakistan tried to do here in India and what we've been able to achieve, there's a picture in contrast here.
Absolutely. We have, as the gentleman said there, we have been very precise. We have been very, we have been very sure at what we are hitting, at what time. And as you mentioned about these, these Kirana stories that are coming out, I'm not very surprised. Maybe we would not have intended to strike their nuclear assets, but we really, dented the pride by hitting Sargodha. And I was speaking to a very, very senior Air Force official today who messaged me saying that, there are a lot of things that will be coming out in the next couple of days. There are a lot of claims, and, the kind of precision and power at which Air Force led this whole Operation Sindoor, a lot of details will emerge. And also, one more thing, Madhav, I want to tell you that, another source, top source also tells me that, we also perhaps would have used both versions of BrahMos, that is land and air version. So all that is telling me is, we really rattled Pakistan by hitting at so many air bases, and we really, the satellite imagery is what we had, the kind of intel we had. We knew exactly what they held, each, shelters, each hangars, everything was known. So it was an intel-based attack, a lot of planning. So a rattled Pakistan, and I'm not quite surprised, even if a bunker or, even a sub-tunnel of the so-called facility, what the sources tell, would have hit. But definitely we wouldn't have targeted their nuclear facility.
All right. Major Manik Jolly, going by what is being reported now, perhaps the damage on Pakistan side would be far higher than they've revealed so far.
Yeah, I agree. And going by, just taking off from where they left actually, there's a very critical point there that says that nothing was unintended. The precision that we have achieved and shown in these attacks, if we wanted to hit a small hut, we have done that. So how I see it, the moment Pakistan started to give a nuclear bluff, we said, hold on, we are not going to drop your planes, we are going to take out your runway, nothing takes off. And on the other side, we give a strike just close to that, we see you even if you try to move your asset from here. So we kind of put a cage over there, we destroy their runways, and we tell them we will hit you with impunity whenever and wherever we want. And on the scale of damage, I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure that since the repairs have not happened, it has not happened because they know that they are so much in range, visible, and a target. Even if they try and repair it, we might just strike them again. So the level of fear which we've given them is unprecedented. They're not even ready to repair their tarmacs now or runway. So and on the nuclear tunnel side, I think it was, if it has happened, though, the DG Air Ops smiled very nicely. So we will keep it in the grey zone. If it has happened with intention, and whichever square meter we wanted to give a message that we see you. And I think that is the same thing that the US also saw, and that call would have gone necessarily to Pakistan, not to India. And because the Saudi summit was coming...
we understand that it's Pakistan who panicked and called up the United States. That's the information that we have coming in. I want to bring in Veena Sikri on that point. Veena Sikri, was this really the turning point? Because Pakistan attempted, to attack India. They gave us a warning of about 90 minutes through the United States, is what sources are indicating to us. And India responded very, very strongly, multiple times what Pakistan had perhaps even imagined of attacking India. And that's the kind of thrashing they got that finally forced them to the negotiating table. Was this the turning point in your view?
Absolutely, it was a turning point. India's quick response, sharp and very precise. And I think this is a complete repeat of what happened in 1999 in Kargil, where Nawaz Sharif at that time went running to Bill Clinton, begging to be saved from India's very precision-oriented attacks. And now this time it was, the Asim Munir, and they say that, went running to Marco Rubio, and who's also an NSA of America right now. And that's what happened. But India was very categorical. We're not going to listen to anybody except the DGMO of Pakistan. He should make any request he wants. We're not going to talk to USA. We're not going to talk to anybody about de-escalation. So there was no talk with America about de-escalation. It was only the DGMO of Pakistan who rang up his Indian counterpart, and it was by the middle of the afternoon, around 3:30, that the talk could finally be arranged. And that is when the request came in that, they're prepared to de-escalate, and so we agreed to that. But again, this is not a ceasefire. It is not a Yudh Viram. It is, the operation is still on. Stagit kiya gaya. That means there's a pause, there's an adjournment, and we maintain the right to take up the operation at any time and at any stage of our liking and at any strength of our liking. This choice is going to remain entirely with us. So India has maintained very correctly the bilateral approach to differences between India and Pakistan, and we told them quite categorically we're not going to talk about anything except terror and return of POJK.
All right. Abhijit, you want to come in on this? Because clearly India has demonstrated, as in fact the previous speakers have been saying, its air superiority, the manner, the range, the sheer number of targets that we've managed to get right as far as these strikes are concerned is something that Pakistan would not have dreamt of achieving, and has not in the various attempts that it has made.
So, this was the difference from Balakot. We focused on the lessons of Balakot, where we didn't have imagery because of clouds and things like that, at least not imagery that the so-called West accepts. and we focused entirely on battle damage assessment. We were always very confident of our abilities. You know, just because we couldn't prove our case to the West's satisfaction, let's not forget, for all those New York Times pieces saying that, you know, those 3 holes in the roof in Balakot were optical illusions and things like that, we managed to buy ourselves 5 years worth of peace. You know, till the Riyasi attack in November last year, 2024, there were no major terror attacks in Kashmir. The Pakistanis, on the other hand, couldn't get over Balakot and their own perceived success. And they kept fighting Balakot in their own heads. Balakot, 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 Abhinandan Vartaman over and over again. So, you know, when you relive your victories as opposed to learning from them, this is what ends up happening. So we have never focused on civilian targeting. We only do either terror targeting or military targeting. That has always been our policy. That will always be our policy, because we're not animals, right? We focus on the job at hand. They focus on the PR tamasha narrative at hand. That's the basic difference. It's a doctrinal difference, but it's also a lifestyle difference between the two countries.
And where is General Munir at the moment, Dr. Mitra, on a lighter note, would you know? Is he still in Pakistan?
So the only thing I can tell you is from that famous speech of his, we have done so much the sacrifice for the country, in that Punjabi accent of his, to the latest images of him, you know, consoling his whatever. He seems to have had some Botox operation, no? Like he seems puffed up and saggy eyes and, you know, dark shadows and things.
Long nights, long painful nights.
It was not without reason he was talking of two-nation theory, because he has another nation to run to. So I think he's not in one of the nations, he's another nation.
And now he is fearing maybe his own nation will be not in more than 2 nations very soon, the way things are going. Very soon the way things are going, and that's the indication that we've given. But, you know, I want to bring in Air Marshal Rana. You're also smiling. You know, the question is this, that, you know, we know Pakistan. We know that Pakistan, it may take 6 months, it may take a year. They will try once again to unleash terror in India. But with us giving this kind of reply as far as the Air Force stations are concerned, India has every time taken it up a notch, whether we're talking post-Uri, whether we're talking about what happened in Balakot, or we're talking about these strikes. Clearly for Pakistan, the fact that India is escalating each time, that in itself should be some amount of a deterrent.
Absolutely. I think to that extent, we've been very, very successful in, you know, displaying what we wanted to showcase to Pakistan. But like you said, Pakistan is Pakistan. But from our side, we have our own credibility to keep, so to say. If we wanted really put Pakistan military down, we would have repeated these strikes within, say, at least within 1 hour. And if not 1, then within 2 hours. And you would have had a sizable casualty on these, because we know for sure that that is the time all these repair activities go on. There are a lot of chaos in those places which have been hit. There is, you know, the runways that are being worked on. Incidentally, Sargodha work was completed. They did fly aircraft next day from there. So probably around 8, 10, 12 hours, whatever time they have taken. But the next day, there was a flight from there. So if we wanted to strike, we could have struck when there was so much of repair work and other chaos was going on. But we never wanted that. We just wanted to show that this here we are precise in terms of meters, and attacks have been done. If we wish, we can do anywhere else But then I think from our side, we cannot put our guards down, not even for a day. In any case, our air defenses work 24/7. They will continue to work. All our units would be out there in open. They would continue to remain there even if things settle down. I'm sure air defense units which are out there in the field, your radars, your missile units, your countermeasures, UAV, all those guys are not restricted to the base. They are all out. So we to put our guards down. We will continue to do that. And I think we also should do, in the meantime, do a gap analysis. Things which have not worked or we could not put use to, I think we continuously need to upgrade our capability and capacity to take on Pakistan, whatever else that he wants to do.
Absolutely. In fact, multiple plans were made as far as responding to Pakistan is concerned, and several of those plans have still not been put in operation on ground. If Pakistan chooses to further escalate, there will be a befitting response from India. But let's take a quick look at the impact on one of those attacks, particularly as far as the Jaish headquarters in Bahawalpur is concerned. This is what we are being told, that JEM chief Masood Azhar, who lost 10 members of his family and 4 aides in that particular attack, such was the damage inflicted that in a letter that later emerged, the dreaded terrorist said that I wish I were dead. Now let's tell you what no one knows. In fact, he could actually have been dead too, because when the missiles hit the Jaish headquarters, Azhar was in the adjacent building and escaped death by merely a whisker. He saw his clan being decimated, and intelligence reports suggest that the butcher who planned many deadly attacks wept uncontrollably. We were this close to getting Masood Azhar. Dr. Nathan. Dr. Nathan.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yes. No, absolutely. And I think I wouldn't like to use poetic justice forever, leave alone for a terrorist. But he saw his family die in front of him. And I hope he, of course, being a terrorist, he would never learn the lesson. But that's why I say it's justice done, because he has meted out that same tragedy to so many countless innocent people, and he's anything but innocent. Having said that, Madhav, I want to take 30 seconds to talk about what you talked about previously, that it might be 6 months, it might be a year, but Pakistan's going to come back. Well, things have changed, Madhav. If it comes back now, we don't just have one deterrent, we have at least 3 deterrents. One is that an act of terror is now equated to an act of war. Pakistan knows it. The second is Indus Water Treaty. And the third most important thing is that if we attack Pakistan, Pakistan knows that it can no longer attack us. Forget about defending, that's another matter. It might be able to defend with much more modern machines, or that it might hastily acquire from other countries other than Turkey. But as far as attack is concerned, I mean, you look at the spectacular success of our, air defense systems and so many other equipment. Pakistan knows it cannot attack us. Now, these are 3 quantifiable deterrents. So, its days are numbered in the sense of perpetrating terror.
All right. Major Mark, do you want to come in on this? Masood Azhar very narrowly escaping, and the only reason that he's still alive is that he was in an adjacent building. He could have very much been at the spot where those missiles struck.
Yeah, so let's just say he had more suffering left for him. I think it would have been had he died in that missile strike, fine, we would have claimed a success that we killed him. But as Dr. Anand said, I would feel seeing his entire family die in front of him, the kind of pain he has given to hundreds of families, who is a more poetic justice. And he will be killed, for sure. As they say, the noose is getting tighter. He's getting tracked. And what happens generally in these terrorist tanzeems and all, although they have leaders, once they see a leader faltering, once they see a leader getting targeted, the amount of information that starts flowing towards outside increases drastically. That's a very typical int operation, right? The moment you see that your leader is now the highest target, just for the sake of money or to get onto the next leadership rung or anything like that, the agencies also push their pressure more, trying to see, iska to number lagega hi lagega. Aap apna dekh lo. So he will be faltered, and I can't say I'm very sure, but the high chances that ISI will ditch him one day. That is a pretty high chance of that, because the cracks will start appearing much faster and much graver now, as the entire structure is falling. Their politics and army has always never been to sitting on the same table, but now army and ISI will start fracturing. The factions within the army, that is the Munir gang and the Imran gang, and there are some which are with tanzeems and all, they'll start moving around. So
only one more worried than him would be Munir.
Yeah, for sure.
Perhaps. But Abhijit, you want to come in on this? What does this mean? Because Masood Azhar, obviously, judging by that report, is somebody who has had a lot of pain and suffering. Do you see this as, an attempt by him to try and regroup? Or do you see this as an attempt that the entire terror infrastructure will further disintegrate, as Major Manik Jolly is sharing with us?
Look, the Masood Azhar and co are the symptoms. The cause is Asim Munir and the Pakistan army. And what worries me right now is, even though we've very admirably changed the narrative, you know, when the ceasefire was announced, there was a great deal of public anger. And in the last 2-3 days, that's turned into full triumph because of the kind of battle damage assessment images that we've been able to provide. The problem now is that Asim Munir's position in Pakistan is heavily weakened. He was already unpopular with his corps commanders for going ahead with this attack without consulting them, which is why, you know, a lot of YouTubers and things like that were putting out statements against him, which they wouldn't dare do before had they not had some kind of protection right from the top. My real worry now is that this man, Asim Munir, he cannot hold on to his position anymore for much longer without ordering a large-scale terror attack, not just in Kashmir, but somewhere in the hinterland, not in 6 months, not in a year, but within the next few weeks or months. And that is my... no, I don't think he can, you know, Balochistan can't help him redeem his honor vis-a-vis India. I think New York Times, in a way, I call it the Islamabad or the Pakistan Jihad Times. I don't think it's the New York Times, but whatever. They've kind of put a nail in his coffin. He needs to come out of that, and you know, cornered rat is a very, very dangerous thing.
All right, a cornered rat is very, very dangerous. We'll have to leave it there. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Major Manik Jolly, Dr. Anant Krishna M, Air Marshal VPS Rana, as well as Veena Sikri. I'd like to thank all of you and our other panelists who've joined us this evening.